All right, we appear to be live, and I appear to have waited long enough for my speech to not be truncated at the beginning. Uh, so yeah, this video is we're going to include the daily space weather into this, but it's going to be bookended by talking about devices, social media, and mankind in general. Uh, I mean, it is. You're currently living in some fairly troubling times, okay? Because never have so many competent people and functional devices been so defunct, out of gas, confused. I mean, barely functional. Like it's it's disturbing. It's legit disturbing. And like I do have an idea of what the solution is. And the solution is, smash your device, buy a flip phone, and don't even like access the internet unless you're on a desktop PC or something. Like I don't know, because devices have been, what's the right word, suboptimal. Mini Jim says you like canned spinach. Not really. So, and look, we've got more. Like, if you want to break it down by corporation, I mean, we've got vastly more Android devices than any other kind of device. I think there are something like 5 billion Android devices, or as Trump would say, billions and 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 billions of Android devices. So, I mean, there are more of those. Who knows? Who knows? But last I checked, there were more Android devices than any other kind of like PC type device. And we're not just talking about all computers or anything. I'm talking about, end user devices like phones, PCs, laptops, tablets. There's a lot more Android OSs than anything else. And I believe Microsoft devices are second, Windows and stuff like that. And then third, you'd have, I think Apple devices would be third. So, anyway, the point is, software has reached an impasse. An impasse. And see the NASDAQ exchange for details for the most overvalued corporations in human history. This makes the NASDAQ bubble of 1999 look undervalued. That's how high the PE ratios are on these NASDAQ companies. And they're propped up by nothing, by absolutely nothing, other than misleading their investors with claims of AI utopias. So, I've never seen anything like it. There are more cultists right now than have ever existed on this planet, for sure. I don't know how many people are in a cult right now, like what percentage, how many people per capita are cultists, but it's a scary freaking number, folks. There are cultists upon cultists upon cultists. So yeah, there's that. Um, and look, to tie this all together, there is a distinct relationship between the cultists and the barely functional devices that are designed only to spy on you and to transmit data to people. Entities like Indian and Chinese market makers are there. Those are the folks who want your data and who purchase your data from certain organizations. Because there are billions and billions and billions and billions of people in those countries, and because there are so many people there, how you shop matters to confused Westerners that have no idea what they are doing. Because you know how I know they have no idea what they're doing? Here's why I know that the NASDAQ companies have no idea what they're doing. Are you ready? It's very simple, and you can definitely verify what I'm about to say real easily. Real easily. Here's how I know they have no clue what they're doing. It's because there are no bug-free applications on those devices that I've talked about. Remember those devices I brought up, all those Android devices? Now, I can't comment on the Apple ones, but this live stream is on an Android device. The app that is being currently used to do the live stream is not bug-free. There is no bug-free app, and I defy you to show me one. Of course, there are bug-free apps. They're open source apps. And that's because real computer nerds are constantly fixing them because they're open source and they have access to the code. So, that's something you should probably understand, folks. And that is that open source is the way. Like, there is a way out of this quagmire of broken devices, people, and devices. Broken devices, people, OSs, apps, etc. There's a way out. But, you're gonna have to make sacrifices because certain software isn't gonna work. If you're a gamer, look, you want to keep playing the most advanced games. You're not going to be able to run like Ubuntu or Linux Mint or something like that because it's not going to have the drivers yet for, the most advanced chipsets and stuff like that for your video card and for your sound and all that stuff. Now, maybe these days they're better. Like, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But as far as I know, I don't think you can play like all the most cutting edge games on any open source OSs. Now, if you are, I wouldn't be surprised because they're very lean. They don't waste resources. Oh, thanks for leaving a comment. Retro Doomsday. Cheers. So yeah, I mean that literally is, because like, look, you know how many PCs are like sitting in people's closets right now and in their sheds and in their basements and in their attics that are perfectly fine PCs that stopped working because of the planned obsolescence built into Microsloth operating systems? You're familiar with this, right? Your Windows PC, it works and works and works until it doesn't, and then you buy a new one because you don't know how to fix it. Well, if you have a thumb drive that is bootable, you install an ISO file on the thumb drive, and then you turn on the computer, you press some buttons to get into the setup, and then you tell the computer to boot via the USB drive, and then you tell the computer to install or at least try running the software. And look, I have one PC right now that I'm running Ubuntu on, and it's a pretty meager device. It's not like a high-end gaming laptop or anything like that, but you know what? It runs just fine. It'll run a browser, I can run Spotify. There are plenty of apps. All the major apps are going to have an Ubuntu version of them. So like it's highly recommended that you understand open source software and start using it. Because the only way to have a truly secure and private computer in the first place is that you have to have an encrypted drive, you have to have no backdoor hackable chips, and then you have to have an OS that is a secure OS. Like, you can make your Windows device or your Apple device or Android device secure and private. It just doesn't come stock that way, and it requires a lot of effort to make sure that it is secure and private. So anyway, I'm just saying this because this doesn't matter for everybody. But those of us who like do things like make music and like content on the internet, we have to do releases and stuff. So we don't want people getting access to our extremely hard work before it's supposed to premiere on the channel or whatever. Like, it's pretty serious. I mean, You know how much video producers are paid per hour? Of course, it depends on what kind of video we're producing, right? So, but the point is, there are solutions for this nonsense. And look, let me comment on social media. Number one, and thanks for tuning in, everybody who's actually here. Cheers. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Number one, if you use any social media besides YouTube, now obviously you're watching this live stream on YouTube, so YouTube is social media, it does count. But if you use any other social media besides YouTube, I'm just saying this because I'm talking to the YouTube audience, install the Don't Die app. Because see, we don't want our viewers to die, right? We don't really want anybody to die for that matter. But yeah, so we don't want our viewers to die. And so we would prefer them to use real social media that has real accountability for all of its users. So you may like or hate Brian Johnson. He doesn't run the community. It's called the Don't Die app, like the DD, Don't Die app. Very easy. I used to have somebody that when we would leave each other's presence, we would say, don't die. That was all the way back in like 2004. Because look, that's sort of the first thing, right? I mean, like, why are you breathing right now? Would that be so you don't die? Like, it's social media that's actually social because everybody has an obvious mission. Longevity, right? It's very simple. So anyway, I just thought I would recommend that social media since it's actually social, unlike all the rest of it, which is designed to piss you off and waste your time. Do you know why the apps waste your time? You know why the bugs are never fixed? Here's why the bugs are never fixed, folks. I'll tell you, it's very simple. The reason the bugs are never fixed is because the big tech organizations that build the apps, like Meta, Google, Microsoft, Apple, etc., those companies, they're all now gauging the success of their applications on engagement. Meaning how much time you spend wasting your time with this piece of crap in front of your face. This overpriced thing that costs $2.46 to make that you're buying for $800 or whatever. I mean, that is literally, that's why. Computing used to be about productivity, right? Why do you use a computer? Because it does a lot of math very fast. A lot faster than any person can do math. And so as a result of that, that's what we real OG computer people expect. Okay? I'm from the time before everybody had a PC at home. You know? In the US, the majority of households did not have a PC until I think it was the mid-1990s. Something like that. I had a PC in the 1980s. I had my first PC, what you would now call a PC, was an IBM PS2 Model 25. It had 20 megabytes of space on the hard drive and 512 kilobytes of memory, which we upgraded to 640 We bought a thing that was this big. The chip was this big, folks. Probably still is in a landfill somewhere. But that chip was 128 kilobytes. My bad. Kilobytes. 128. That was so I could play Ultima 6. All right, let me get to these comments. I see some comments. Thanks, everybody, for who's left some. Please feel free to type your experiences about non-functional junkware. Junkware. It's clogging up life itself at this point. All right, anyway, here are the comments. What do we have here? Branches09 says, oh, we had a wrench when we commented. Well, that's because we used to give out wrenches to lots of our viewers. And We had somebody who's a cultist. One of the cultists in one of the insane doomsday cults somehow found herself with a wrench, and then she started like doing stuff like deleting comments, like literally just to sabotage the channel. So yeah, if you see somebody in here called Barb Arian, hey Barb, enjoy your doomsday cult, Barb. Yes, I rebooted the moderators in that there is one moderator, Smash Staff, and that's it, because she used to be on the payroll. She'll be back on the payroll eventually. And so that's the moderator, me and Smash Staff, and that's it. No wrenches for anybody. Thanks for asking. Wasn't XZUtils open source software? I have no idea what XZUtils is, so I don't know. Branches09 says the internet is a technological organism. Okay, thank you. I guess you could say so. Except it's not life. Like the internet is definitely not life as per the definition any biologist would use to describe life. So the internet definitely not alive. Because it doesn't satisfy the requirements of life. Again, leave comments, folks. We do read all comments, even if we don't necessarily read them all on air. And, we're not going to necessarily respond to all of them because sometimes there are some ridiculous comments. Keep in mind, if you find somebody particularly annoying, you can hide their comments, but we don't mute anybody. So just, follow the rules that are stated when you first show up here, and everybody will be just fine. Because in the real world, we don't need to block people and ban people. Like, we've got 0 accounts banned on social media. 0. That's called real accountability, folks. Real accountability, not fake accountability on social media. Abe Barker says the truth is that there are some bad actors who are actively trying to destroy everything that is good. I would tend to agree. Yes, there are some misanthropes out there, some very powerful misanthropes that literally want to destroy the human species. I mean, I don't think they want to take out themselves, but they want to reduce Earth's population to whatever, 1,000, 10,000, 5 million, 5 billion. Who gives a? It's like that is some insane nuttiness. And look, Kamala said it. I heard her say it. Kamala said, "Oh, if we get off of carbon and we reduce population and blah 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 blah." She's worried that the planet is going to burn to a cinder because there's too many humans on it. So just let me comment on that. Earth is capable of sustaining a lot more than 10 billion people. Do you realize that the entire Earth's population could fit on the big island of Hawaii and still have room for a few billion more people? Yeah. People think the world is overpopulated because they live in cities and they've never been out of cities. Like, if you're an American and you're able to do it, drive from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Drive to the Atlantic to the Pacific, and then come back on the channel the next time we do a stream or make a video, and leave us a comment or hit us up on Twitter or somewhere else. Because I want to know, after driving across the US, if you still think that the planet is overpopulated. There are far more resources than mankind needs, just right here on planet Earth. We don't need to go to a crazy asteroid. We don't have to go and, put a leash around Comet 3I Atlas and bring it back to Earth so we can harvest the nickel. There are a lot of resources out there. I mean, Like if you want to start a frontier town, there are so many places where you could like build an entire town and nobody would notice for like a decade. I mean, look at north central Pennsylvania on a map, folks. All right, so what else do we have here? Yes, there are some bad actors who are actively trying to destroy everything that is good, and it's because they're misanthropes. They have this like there's this crazy environmental agenda, and I used to subscribe to it myself. I used to be like an environmental nut job. I used to like refer to humans as like a foul mold growing on the planet. Um, but I've lost that insanity now. I've I've come to my senses over such things. And by the way, let's talk exercise. I'm taking as few steps as possible today. Yep. So let us know in the comments how many steps you're taking. Not that I care. I know people are constantly like they're like, you know how many senior citizens right now are like chugging through malls? I'm gonna get to my 8,000 steps if it's the last thing I do. Like all that stuff is good for them, but it's complicated. It's complicated, and I'm gonna give you one pro athletic tip. One pro athletic tip right now, folks. Check this out. Here it is. Pro tip. Never underestimate the power of the leisurely stroll. The leisurely stroll is the most important training tool in any pro athlete's arsenal. I'm even putting a short out that includes that clip right there, the last 49 seconds, because that is a game changer, folks. I know it sounds crazy, but look, the more specialized you get at a thing, if you are a defensive tackle in the NFL, let's use that in particular. Okay, a defensive tackle in the NFL, that's one of the largest players on the field, second mainly to an offensive tackle. That is a huge dude. Like those guys weigh up to nearly 400 pounds. Those guys are so specialized at playing football that they can't run a few flights of stairs. Like they'll need to be on oxygen for real. Like they cannot sprint for 30 seconds or they'll be toast. They'll be toast. They'll be like on the ground after doing that. And that's just because they are too specialized for what they're doing. Okay. So if you find yourself in a complete rut where you're like, and the more elite you get at this, the more important it is to cross train. So yeah, take your leisurely strolls. Whatever it is you're doing, be elite at it. You don't have to be an elitist. Just be elite at it. Anything worth doing is worth doing at the world-class level. And it's easy to find out how these things are done. Like this is 2025, folks. You've got access to more information than humans have ever had access to in all of history. Like, don't have idiotic arguments on the internet that you could just look up a thing on Google or DuckDuckGo or Yahoo or whatever search engine and like find obvious oh my gosh. It's so frustrating. It's like when you hear people talk about chemtrails, it's one of the most annoying things. And it's because social media is completely broken. It's designed to piss you off. Those are the top posts. The ones it's going to put in your feed the most are the ones that piss off the most people. That like X works that way, Facebook works that way, Instagram works that way. Like that's just the way it is. Install the Don't Die app. Like we're going to be putting more and more exclusive content on there. Because 50 is the new 30. Anyway, let me get to these comments here. This is it. These comments are rich with information. So thanks for typing, everybody who has. I know how frustrating it is to type on one of these devices because software is not supposed to be a keyboard, folks. A keyboard is supposed to be a thing with physical buttons that you press. That is how you interface No, you're not putting an electrode in any part of me so that I can use my thoughts to interface. Like maybe, but you can just have a thing that goes over the outside of your skin. You don't need an implant. Like, why are people so dumb? Why are some people so overrated? Elon Musk. And like, where do people come up with this nonsense? Like, why is there zero accountability for anybody? Like, what a deadbeat planet we live on. It's such a deadbeat planet. Like, what the hell? Why are the most incompetent people paid the most? It's a little disturbing. It's like some shit from Revelation or something. One of those persons, man. Yeah, like for like there are certainly bad actors. It's so important. Anyway, what do we have here? Oh, nice. You had a Timex Sinclair ZX. That's badass, man. Yeah, that you're dating yourself by naming these PCs, okay? I had a Commodore PET. I learned to code on a TI 99, a Texas Instruments TI 99. Um, so those are the ones I had before the IBM PS2 Model 25. And then in college, I would have a 486DX2 50 megahertz Intel Celeron chip, the same as the ones that powered the space shuttle, actually. Yeah, the Intel Celeron 486DX2. That was like the absolute epitome of stable chips. In fact, I would later have a 500 megahertz Celeron. My next PC would be an HP Pavilion, another Intel Celeron. And that was where the name Smash-O-Mash came from, actually, because when I got hit by a truck in November 1999, that's when I learned to day trade. I bought a television, a PlayStation, and a PC. That's how I met Smash Staff, because I wanted to trade stocks while I recovered, learn something productive. And I wanted a gaming system. And I also got a video card and I started playing Special Ops 2 Green Berets. So that's how I started playing FPS. And I pretty much only play FPS and GTA games. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm an insanely good racer at, like video game racing, bike racing, auto racing, things like that. Uh, my GTA 5 character was pretty good. She's called Mrs. Grumpy. If you look on Xbox leaderboards, you might see Mrs. Grumpy as ranked in golf or tennis. That would be because I owned those sports. There were like two players in each of those that were better, and that was it. Everybody else got rocked in GTA 5 golf and tennis, of all strange things. Of course, my win to loss ratio in racing was like, it was like 300 wins to one loss in planes or in aircraft, planes and helicopters. And win to loss ratio was still like, I think it was like 170 to 1 in cars. Cars, trucks, etc. I can't remember if we could do a fire truck race. If I did GTA 6 now or 5, I would do a fire truck race for sure. Oh yeah, there's a backdoor introduced to the Linux XZ utility. Okay, yeah, I have no idea what that's even for. So not really a big concern, as I don't even think that's an OS. Just reading your comments here. Bear with me. I can't read and talk effectively at this. Retro Doomsday asks if I played Oregon Trail. I did not play Oregon Trail. Um, so yeah, without divulging unnecessary information, I did have an Atari 2600. That was the first game system I ever had. Um, at Christmas that year, we had Pac-Man, Combat, Deadly Duck, I want to say. That was one of those like bootleg company games. Because back then, folks, you didn't have licensing, so anybody could just make an Atari game. I mean, there are Halloween games out there that have a piece of tape and the word Halloween just written on it in orange marker that they actually sold. Oh, geez, your ankle's smashed. Oh, man. Dude. That's not good. How'd you do that? Wow. Abe Barker says the ozone hole's not caused by mankind. I would agree. I mean, I remember in the 90s when that was proclaimed, you know. I thought everybody knew this by the 90s, but this is one of those things that keeps coming out because people keep spouting nonsense and trying to fearmonger about a thing that's not scary. Yeah, the ozone hole. It's a naturally occurring fluctuation in the stratosphere. I mean, not caused by not caused by mankind, or doesn't appear to be. I mean, show me evidence that it is. I don't see the extraordinary evidence to back up the claim that it's. I'll just say that. That's the most sciencey way to say it, folks. Yeah, the ozone layer is not well understood. It's in the stratosphere. It's not like we can just monitor it all the time real easily. I mean, the ozone layer is monitored all the time real easily, but I'm saying we're not constantly monitoring the interaction between the troposphere and the stratosphere, and the interaction between the stratosphere and the mesosphere, and the interaction between the mesosphere and the ionosphere, and the interaction between the you know the upper levels of the ionosphere and the lower levels of the ionosphere. It's pretty mysterious up there. Like everybody thinks we got everything figured out. We know how everything works. We know all the variables in how the climate and the what. Like, dude, we can't forecast the weather outside a week. Like, you think we can forecast the climate? We can't forecast the weather beyond a week. Not accurately. 3-day forecasts are accurate. 3-day forecasts. Look, I'm in eastern Pennsylvania, all right? The weather's pretty volatile here. If you don't know how to forecast it, you're screwed. If you come to visit, ask me for a forecast. I'll hook you up. I'm a real weather expert. Oh, the ozone hole opens in July and closes in November or December every year like clockwork. So it's just based on, literally just based on temperature. And that's why people freaked out about it, because they're like, the temperature is going to rise and rise so much, it's going to be very scary. All right, let's briefly talk space weather, as this has been a lengthy stream already, over a half hour, and I haven't said jack about El Sol. So let's talk El Sol. I'll forget about Earth weather because I don't need it. I don't need it. You might need it. If you got requests, you can leave a comment. I'll consider it, but probably not going to cover any type of Earth weather. All right. Maybe we'll show you the jet streams because we're talking about the stratosphere. Should I oblige? Should I oblige, or should I be a data miser? Yes, a data miser. Let's get some color. Is that better, Governor? Or does that just make it look like a hellscape? Pardon me, I know I look like a Joule, but the makeup artist is at work, so it's you know what a Joule is, right? It's spelled Zhoul. It means part zombie, part ghoul. You know, because a ghoul, I don't know. I don't think a ghoul is undead. But I look like the Walking Dead, so That's... I can go uphill faster than you, but... but I look like the Walking Dead, so, you know, it's a... You got to give up something to get something else, folks. So what can you say? All right, so let's... I'm gonna just briefly show you here the jet streams. If I can remember how, what is going on? Something looks funky. Come on, nullschool.net. I'm sure this is my fault. Oh, I gotta show... Seriously? Oh, wind. Here we go. The 250 hectopascal winds, aka the jet stream. There you go. There's a strong low there off the coast of California. Wait a minute. What the heck? That's an anticyclone. That's not a low at all. Look at that. That's an upper level anticyclone rotating clockwise like Jupiter's red spot. Yeah, Jupiter's red spot is the Great Red Spot. That's actually not a storm in the sense of, you know, like the biggest storms on Earth are hurricanes. Or you could say typhoons or cyclones if you want to like get pedantic about it. But yeah, Jupiter's Great Red Spot is actually a high pressure zone, not a low pressure zone. And that's what this is. It's in the northern hemisphere. It's rotating clockwise. That is a high pressure characterized region. Where at the surface, oh my goodness. Yo, that is a massive anticyclone. And look at this crazy spot right here where the winds just suddenly shift. Very funky. Very funky stuff there going on. Off the coast of Southern California there. I'll just say California. Look, man, look at that. That is a hell of an anticyclone. I'm glad I looked at that because that's bonkers. I mean, you got this low up here. That's interesting. But this... that is a high pressure of high pressures. Dude. I bet there aren't no clouds there. You want to make a wager? Should we make a wager if there are clouds there, folks? Oh, almost devoid of cloud water, much less clouds. That's a total cloud water right there. Anyway, let's cut to the closest star because stargazing is better than Earth weather gazing. It's just better. All right. I like that. It's called Ozone Watch because you can watch it like clockwork every year. It's pretty good. I like that. It's like the thing is a watch. You could look at it and figure out what month it is by how it looks. Anyway, there's a closest star. We got some prominences happening there. Some likely CMEs popping off there in the southwestern limb. Nothing earthly directed from that, but we do have a CME on the way that we covered yesterday. Let's take a look at things like sunspot number. First cosmic ray flux, which is, by the way, still at 20-year lows. If you weren't aware, I know there are a lot of channels out there, or at least some channels, that say the reason things are so crazy on Earth is because of spooky, spooky energy from space in the form of cosmic rays. Well, we're at a 20-year low in cosmic rays. The last time we saw levels this low was in the year 2004. As you can see right here very clearly, here's where we are today. Here's where we were in 2004. So your energy from space theory of why people are such idiots and deadbeats and losers and antisocial jackasses, it's not because of spooky, spooky cosmic rays from space. If you're wondering what those are made out of, it's mainly hydrogen nuclei, just like the solar wind. Next. We'll look at the Hux forecast real quick here to figure out if indeed the CME we talked about yesterday, and it looks like they disagree. Let me just press refresh to make sure we have the latest. but I think that we do. Yeah, the Hux forecast has it missing. I have it hitting. So never the twain shall meet. We'll see what happens tomorrow when the CME impacts and they say, we didn't forecast that one. Here is the sunspot number from Royal Observatory Belgium. Dropped down a little bit here, still quite high at nearly 180 sunspots. Radio flux, which is measured in SFU, solar flux units, which are, each solar flux unit is 10,000 Jansky of radio flux density, if you're wondering. It's a measure of the flux density of the radio signal at 10.7 centimeters. Anyway, radio flux currently at 220 solar flux units. Solar.info listing the sunspot number here as 227. You know, like the Jefferson's offshoot, 227. Do we have any additional CMEs headed our way? Well, we're going to find out. And we're going to find out the hard way by looking at stereo A and by the GOES 19 coronagraph. That's how you do it. You take the data, you look at the data, you evaluate the data, and then you tell your viewers what's going on with the data. That's how you do it. That's how we're gonna do it. That's how I like to do it. That's how we're gonna do it on the channel. Right. There's our GOES 19. I don't know. It looks like there's more CMEs on the way. What the heck? Missing data as we see a macro here. Great. Look at this. What is up with that? Oh, brother. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. And I'm not going to do research on it. So if you want to find out what's going on with that, that's strange. I'll bet it's not corroborated by anything on stereo A, indicating it's an issue with the GOES 19 coronagraph. Anyway, here's a CME from yesterday that has an earthly directed component. It could cause a significant geomagnetic storm, by the way, coming early tomorrow. So tomorrow when we make this video, God willing, it might be a major geomagnetic storm. Probably not. Probably just a minor one, but expect a minor one. You might have mid-latitude aurora at sunrise tomorrow, folks. That's for our American viewers. All right, I don't think there's anything earthly directed here. We seem to have pretty good data from stereo A. Oh, there is a hole in the data there. 21, 23. And it's not because of alien spacecraft. So here's the NOAA forecast, and it looks like NOAA's not forecasting any geomagnetic storms either. Oh, no, look, they are saying there could be glancing effects from the CME yesterday, but they've got it moving more slowly. So that could be right, but I think it's going to arrive by midday tomorrow. Let us know in the comments if you agree, disagree, or don't care. So yeah, there's NOAA's forecast right there on the Space Weather Enthusiasts dashboard. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind. Call out some digits for you. The BTBZ is 6 nanotesla with a BZ of positive 5. Solar wind density 1.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity down yesterday by about 85 to 613 kilometers per second. Still an elevated solar wind from a coronal hole. Coronal hole high-speed stream. What are coronal holes? They are areas in the sun's corona where the magnetic field lines don't reconnect to the sun, but they go out into space. Space plasma orbits those fields, and those magnetic field lines stretch all the way out beyond the Earth. Coronal holes are the source of the solar high-speed wind, and we're seeing some buffeting Earth's magnetosphere right now. Next, it goes proton flux. and no SEPs at the moment. X-ray flux here is at a background level of about a C1.8. So it's a pretty inactive sun here. Like we said yesterday, none of these sunspots are particularly capable of producing large flares. So maybe that's changed. Let's take a look at coronal holes here, since we have had a sector boundary change likely since yesterday. There should be north. Well, all right. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, that's the current situation. Here's the latest image that shows like 4 days. Looks like Earth is still in a South Pole oriented magnetic sector, but let's verify that. All right, looking at the ecliptic plane field plot. The top view ecliptic plane field plot, that is. So here's stereo A. We showed you the coronagraph from that earlier. Here's stereo B as it chases Earth. And that North Pole magnetic sector has closed up. So it could be because of migration of a coronal hole. And I'm actually going to check and see if it is. How about that? Did the coronal hole migrate? We may be able to see it on this data, so let's see. Yes, the southern coronal holes migrated down this way, an indication that the solar cycle is extending. And here's why. If this coronal hole were moving toward solar minimum conditions, it would move toward the north heliographic pole, where the south magnetic pole will settle at solar minimum. But it's not. You can see it's moved south. And that is why that North Pole magnetic sector has closed up. There's the Boulder magnetometer. I don't care about that because we ain't got no geomagnetic storms going on. Let's close that tab entirely. All right, let's take a look at magnetograms here. How about El Teide, Spain? We'll just look at today's data. Nothing from yesterday is necessary. There's the latest. And those sunspots are looking pretty stable, folks. There is still potential to produce large flares in here, but at the moment, looking somewhat unlikely. These are, well, they are beta delta class. We do have shear lines. There is some chance of flaring from these sunspots. This one has a little less chance. This one has a little more chance, and this one has the most chance of producing M-class events, or some small outside chance of an X-class event. I'm sure your other data that you can look at about this will agree. Here's our red light imagery. That's 677 nanometers. And indeed, those sunspots are stable. Let's take a look at the most interesting ones, as these are huge sunspots. They're just stable. A little bit of changes happening on the trailing edge of this group, and a little bit of spreading apart here. So these leading fields are moving a little faster than the trailing ones, along with their umbrae. Can we stop saying bro constantly, please? Bro, please stop saying bro. I can't take it. All right, let's look at solar filaments from today. Oh, look at that. There's one lifting off. Whoop. See ya. Should have named it. See ya wouldn't want to be ya as you diffuse out through space and become more and more diffuse gas for the most part. So yeah, quite a few filaments here. Less earthly facing filaments than we had yesterday. So that's not good news for all of you aurora enthusiasts. Here's our electron flux coming back up here as we come out of this highest speed portion of the coronal hole wind stream. Headed back towards storm conditions, though. We explained why this is an erroneous signal yesterday. And of course, it has to do with this. It's because the sun makes the ionosphere puff up. It gets to a lower and a higher altitude, especially under the noontime sun at the equator. And when we have space weather coming in, We have an additional input there. There's stress, additional pressure on the very, very outside of the ionosphere. And as a result of that, the electrons are not where they're expected to be, okay? Here's what I mean. The GOES 18 and 19, they're measuring the electron flux using radiography from 23,000 miles of altitude. As you can see here, the ionosphere is 70 to 400 kilometers of altitude. And the GOES 19, it only wants to measure the ionosphere right here in the D region, around 80 to 90 kilometers of altitude. So if the D region moves, you get this, erroneous readings. Anyway, we're going to show the ionosphere's vibrational frequency here as measured by Australian Bureau of Meteorology, who now has a new logo, it looks like. We'll show anomalygram, that's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median, and the raw data in megahertz. So that's what's going on. Things should be returning to more normal here as the coronal hole high-speed stream ends, and we await the next coronal mass ejection impact. Will the next coronal mass ejection impact arrive early tomorrow, like we forecasted yesterday, or will it not arrive until late in the day on Sunday? Let us know in the comments what you think, if you think anything about it. Let us know in the comments if you think. Anyway, that's raw vibrational frequency. Here is that was raw vibrational frequency. Here's anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Once again, folks, note the South Atlantic anomaly is way over here, not over the South Atlantic or South America, but over the equatorial Pacific. Enjoy! If you think that spells doomsday, think again. We don't even understand the mechanism fully that drives Earth's magnetosphere, so it's just silly to suggest that movement of the South Atlantic anomaly is spooky in any way. Yes, retro doomsday, exactly. Super, extra, extraordinarily normal, mundane, mediocre, humdrum, and average. You could even say nominal, and it helps to not look like a joule when you say so. If you've just tuned in, a joule is part zombie, part ghoul. That's what I am. That's my species. Don't be a speciesist. Don't try to say, oh, hey, there's a freaking CME popping off right now and a flare. Dude, look at that. Sound the alarm bells, folks. Earthly directed coronal mass ejection likely. Look at this. Look at this. Ha ha. That's what you want to see. Exciting stuff. So we'll have to wait several hours to be able to see, at least a couple of hours, to see if that shows up on the coronagraph at all, as that whole thing could have splashed back down. It could have gotten reoriented someplace else in the corona. It's really hard to tell. And yeah, so there should be some great videos about that coming out today. Huge prominence here, kind of pointing right toward the Earth. It is a bit off to the south and the west, but yeah, some stuff going on as we stream. Shout out to El Sol. Dear the Sun, if you're watching, I don't know what to say. Thanks for tuning in. I imagine our time scales might be a little bit short for your life cycles. But if you are conscious, please help. Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at it in 195 angstroms. That's probably going to show filaments. It'll look cool, so we'll put it up on the screen here for a minute. Let's go. Okay. What the heck? Man, I feel so confused. You know, you would think with access to more information than anybody's ever had, that it would be really hard to be confused. People are more confused than ever. I mean, science illiteracy has got to be... Folks, how many people have proclaimed a thing that just proves that they can't pass junior high physics on social media? 1 billion in the past day? It's extraordinarily bonkers. Anyway, just figured I'd ask. So, yeah, a big prominence happening, pointing right toward Earth, and possibly producing another Earth-directed CME. Fingers crossed for that. We certainly hope so. We'll just close out with 304 angstroms and call this thing a day, because my voice is shattered and we're almost at an hour. If you've got comments, make sure you leave them now. We're going to let this play the sun just for a brief minute, but if you got comments to leave them now, or forever hold your psst. Anyway, until next time, I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-A-Mash. Thanks once again for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And until tomorrow, or perhaps even later today, may that solar wind be at your back.